Do you realize that many of the decisions you make daily are not even yours? The job you choose, the house you live in, the relationships you continue, all of it might be governed by an invisible rule book you never agreed to follow. When was the last time you made a choice that truly represented what you are? Not an easy choice like which movie to watch, but a choice that defied conventions, busted expectations, and caused you to pause and think, this feels true to me. Think about it. What if every big decision that you have made has been directed by invisible hands you never saw? Feels scary, right? But don't worry. What if I told you you can rewrite it? Come, let's rethink on it. Society has its rules. Some are spoken like stopping at a red light, but most of them are unspoken. Just think about it. You get your degree and you are supposed to get a stable job. You should have a house by 30 and by 35 you should have kids. But have you ever thought who set this timeline and why does it seem wrong to step away from this path? Psychologists refer to this phenomenon as social scripts. These are the unwritten rules handed to us by the culture, family, and in some cases the media. For example, a study from Psychological Britain notes that individuals felt significant pressure to align with societal norms even when it contrasted with their personal preferences. Have you ever even asked yourself if those things are actually what you want? How often do we mistake what we want for what we are told we should want? Imagine this. You are at a family gathering and someone asks about your future plans. You say, I consider going around the world for a year. Watch how their faces drop. A number of questions came up. What about your future? What about your career? What about your savings, etc.? Sounds familiar, right? That's the secret rulebook in action. It is unwritten, yet it governs every part of our lives. And here is the scary part. Most of us don't know we are following it. It is almost like being in a play without knowing the script but following anyway. In fact, a survey conducted by the Pew Research Center found that 70% of adults felt pressure to hit certain milestones by a certain age. But when asked them why, the most common response is, that is just how it is. Really? Is that a reason good enough to give your life to a script you didn't write? What if that is the script you need to overcome to access your true potential? Let's rewind a bit. Where the hell did this rulebook come from? During the Industrial Revolution, society needed compliant workers who could operate within a system. Schools taught them punctuality, obedience, and repetition, all the necessary skills for factory workers expected to perform repeated functions on assembly lines. Over time, this approach to training was not only confined to factories, it entered every aspect of life, shaping the way we educate, organize, and even understand ourselves. Think about this way. Before Industrial Revolution, most people were craftsmen, farmers, or small business people. We were taught to think outside the box and be self-sufficient. But with the rise of mass production, the need arises for workers who could follow directions without question. In response, schools were restructured to address these industrial demands. This arrangement evolved into societal expectations over decades. But the problem is, although the industrial age is over, the strategy it created still rules many of our contemporary practices. But here is the thing, the world has changed, but why are we still holding on to them? Consider the idea of a stable job. In 1950s, staying 40 years with one company makes sense. It was a time when job security was assured through long-term loyalty and the gradual promotions. Eventually, a pension plan at the end of it was the ultimate reward. But fast forward to the present, where the industries shift in top speed, jobs and whole sectors vanish overnight, and the gig economy takes over. Stability is no longer linked to loyalty, but rather to adaptability, to being able to learn new skills and to pivot when needed. But the rule book has not changed for this new reality. Why are we still aiming for a definition of stability that does not apply to the present world? And most importantly, how can we rethink what stable really means for ourselves in this ever changing landscape? There is also the legacy of post war marketing, in which owning a house, a car, and a white picket fence become symbol of success. They were not just advertising a product, they were advertising a lifestyle, one that promised happiness, security, and approval from society. But here is the deeper question: was it really about your happiness, or was it a clever tactic to promote consumerism? In 1947, the National Association of Realtors started campaigns that relate home ownership with patriotism and family stability, backed by corporate interests that stood to profit immensely. In the same way, car companies like General Motors ran advertisements showing automobiles as symbol of freedom and individualism, completely ignoring the environmental and financial costs. By 1960s, this narrative becomes so deep that people didn't want these things. They felt that they need these things to show them as successful. However, many of those who bought into this dream were left unfulfilled, saddled with debt, and stuck in jobs they despised just to maintain appearances. Does all this ever about individual happiness or about maintaining an economy fueled by constant consumption? Now, let's talk about you. Consider the last major decision you made. Perhaps it is about your work, your schooling, or even your relationships. To what extent was the decision truly yours? Take a moment and consider how many of your life's big decisions have been motivated by passion or curiosity. How many times have we put our dreams aside for the sake of acceptance, afraid of being judged or failing? These are uncomfortable questions, but also the necessary ones. Because the reality is, each time you make a choice that don't align with your true self, you create just one more layer over a life that is increasingly not your own. And here is the scariest part. This is not unique to you. According to a study conducted by the University of Essex, up to 80% of our big life decisions, from career paths to marriage, are found to be influenced by societal norms. We are all caught up in this web, but most of us don't realize it. So, let's reflect inward for a second. When was the last time you chose something not because it looked good on paper, but because it lit a fire in you? Here is a painful truth. We are living lives intended to impress people we don't even care for. We are chasing promotions, buying cars, and planning weddings not because we want to, but because that's what the society expects from us. But the invisible rulebook is not only about social comparison, it is the expectations that we accept without questioning them. Do you ever think how much of your ambitions are borrowed dreams? So, how to break free from this rulebook? How do you take control and rewrite the rules? Here are the 3 steps. Step 1: Awareness. You can't battle what you can't see. So, start questioning everything. Why do you want that promotion? Is it because you really enjoy the challenge, or because it is what people expect from you? Why do you want to get married? Is it something you personally want, or do you feel pressure from the society? Go deeper on these questions and be sure not to accept surface level answers. Consider your motivations and distinguish between what brings you joy and what feels like an obligation from others. Peeling back these layers is where the awareness begins. Step 2. Redefine success. For some people, success might be reaching the top of the corporate ladder. For others, it may be working part time in order to spend more time with the family or pursue their passion. Success is defined by no one but yourself. Success is not a destination, it is a journey aligned with your values. Step 3. Take small steps. You don't need to turn your whole life upside down in a night. Start with one area where you actually feel controlled by the invisible rulebook. It might be your job, your social circle, or even the way you spend your weekends. Change something small and notice what happens. Little acts of resistance can turn into a revolution. Every day, ordinary people are breaking out of the same old scripts. Now, it's your turn. Which rule are you prepared to challenge? What is one area of your life where you could say, "This is not working for me anymore"? Life is not a checklist or someone else's timeline. It is about authenticity, living on your own terms. The invisible rulebook is only a powerful tool if you allow it to be so. The question is, will you allow it? So, are you prepared to recreate your own rulebook? Let's start today.